I entered the Sinister, lost bar, 7 terrifying rules revealed that haunt every visitor. The flickering neon sign, barely holding on to life, was like a siren song in the dead of night. Sarah, weary from another grueling shift at the diner, felt an unsettling pull to the infamous lost bar. Rumors of it being a haven for shadows and whispers echoed in her mind. She hesitated, her gaze locked on the broken facade, the grim stories coiling around it like tendrils of smoke. But with rent due and her son sleeping alone in their cramped apartment, curiosity gnawed at her. What secrets lay within those walls? Entering was like stepping into a dream-turned-nightmare. The heavy air wrapped around her, the silence deafening save for the soft thud of her heart. Eyes turned as she emerged from the darkness, the familiar faces of patrons twisted with a knowing, unsettling familiarity. Goosebumps prickled her skin. She took a seat at the bar, her instincts screaming at her to flee. The bartender, a figure draped in shadows, met her gaze with a grin that sent cold shivers racing down her spine. "You look like you need a drink," he said, handing her a crumpled list, the title barely discernible, 7 terrifying rules that haunt every visitor. The first rule made her blood run cold: never ask about the regulars. She couldn't shake the feeling that the very people around her knew far more than they let on. Her fingers tightened around her drink as her eyes flitted to a shadowy figure in the corner, a man with a gaze that pierced through her like an icy dagger. As she took a sip, the soft buzz of whispers grew louder, morphing into an ominous crescendo around her. Something was wrong. Panic bubbled within her as she caught fragments of clipped conversations, urgent tones lowering to conspiratorial murmurs. "Did you hear about the Johnson girl?" One woman hissed, her voice quaking with fear. "Disappeared without a trace, just like all the others." Each word felt like a dark omen, a chilling reminder of nights smeared with dread and disappearance. Then, in a spine-chilling moment, the bartender leaned closer, reciting the third rule: trust no one. Everyone has a secret. Her heart raced. Who were these people? The realization crashed over her with a wave of terror. The drinks left abandoned on the bar, full but untouched, were a stark reminder of the fate that awaited those lured into this cursed place. As one by one, patrons melted away into shadows, leaving only their drinks, her breath grew shallow. Sarah felt like prey in a game designed for everything but her survival. "Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Just as she decided to leave, the bartender's voice cut through her mounting panic. "Leave before they know your name." The weight of his words sank in, curling around her like barbs. The lurking shadow in the corner began to rise, movement slow and deliberate, as if savoring the fear filling the air. Her instincts screamed to run, to escape the ominous grasp of danger. But beneath the terror, a darker curiosity ignited. Who were the people in the bar? What secrets did they hold? The shadows closed in as realization dawned. In this place, danger was not just lurking, it was familiar. With fear lacing every thought, she knew she had to uncover the truth before it consumed her. She would not leave without answers. But as the shadows whispered more secrets of her neighborhood, the faces of her neighbors morphing into the unknown, she faced an urgent decision: could she survive the night? And as the chilling weight of those rules thickened around her, she was left teetering on the edge between revelation and doom. Who could she trust in a world where every face held a haunting secret? The bartender's grin widened, an unsettling stretch that seemed almost unnatural. As the shadow in the corner continued to rise, the hairs on the back of Sarah's neck stood on end. Her heart raced in her chest, pounding like a drum, a warning beat urging her to flee. But the whispers around her twisted tighter, wrapping her in their chilling embrace. "Don't let them see you shake," she muttered under her breath. The words felt futile against the overwhelming tension in the bar. What if they could not only see fear but feed off it? Eyes darting from one patron to another, Sarah noted the hollow sockets where life should dwell. Their smiles held hidden truths, and laughter echoed with something far more sinister than amusement. The man in the darkened corner moved closer, his movements languid, deliberate. The shadows that clung to him seemed alive, eager to pull him deeper into their abyss. "Why are you still here?" The whisper brushed against her ear like a cold wind, making her shudder. Sarah turned sharply to find a dilapidated woman beside her, her hair a tangled mess, eyes wide and darting like a trapped animal. "You have to go. You really have to go," she urged, panic sharp in her voice. "Why?" Sarah asked, her voice trembling as fear gripped her. "Because when they start calling your name, it's already too late," the woman replied, her gaze slipping to the bartender, who had shifted his attention from her to the man in the corner. Sarah's stomach twisted as she caught the bartender's glance, an expression that firmly suggested the woman could vanish at any moment. With each passing second, Sarah felt the weight of the place pressing against her, squeezing the breath from her lungs. She clutched her drink, feeling its chill seep into her skin, a stark contrast to the oppressive heat building around her. The rules played in her mind, each word amplifying her awareness of her own vulnerability. The others were just drowning in their own secrets, perhaps hoping that by keeping them closeted, they could skate by unnoticed. But for Sarah, there was nowhere to hide. She could either sink deeper into this disturbing reality or pry loose the truth that festered among them. "What happened to the Johnson girl?" Sarah blurted out, her own voice trembling, cracking with desperation. As soon as the words left her lips, the bar stilled. Conversations halted, drinks suspended in midair, eyes locking onto her like hunters eyeing their prey. The woman beside her gasped, her hands flying to her mouth. The bartender froze, his eyes narrowing. "Rule number 4, his voice slithered through the tense silence. "Never speak of the disappeared." Tension rippled through the room like a live wire ready to snap. Sarah's heart thudded loudly in her ears, drowning out all other sound. Every face around her twisted in shock, their secrets poised to spill, but she could feel the air crack with the pressure of their silenced breaths. "It's not safe for you here," the woman hissed, pulling at Sarah's sleeve with trembling fingers. "They don't like you asking questions." A cacophony of whispers ignited, a collective rush of murmurs filled the space. It felt like the bar itself had come alive, its walls closing in, suffocating and hostile. Panic clawed at Sarah as she swayed in her seat, ready to bolt. Then suddenly, the man from the corner approached, his face now illuminated by the flickering neon lights. His eyes burned into hers, dark and vacant. "You think you can survive here?" he snarled, his voice low and menacing. "Have you ever seen a shadow in the daylight?" She couldn't answer. As fear tightened its grip, all she could think was how to get out. But could she trust the woman who warned her? Did anyone here harbor a shred of kindness? Sarah dropped her drink, the glass shattering at her feet, and she pushed herself off the barstool, adrenaline surging through her veins. She had to escape, but the moment she turned, a rattling laugh erupted from the shadows. "Where do you think you're going?" The doors of the lost bar slammed shut with a deafening finality. The room plunged into darkness, the shadows wrapping around her like whispers of the damned. "Let us begin." Sarah's feet came to a halt. The truth was, whatever she discovered within these walls could be the last thing anyone would ever know. The darkness cocooned Sarah, intensifying her sense of vulnerability. Panic flooded her system as the haze of shadows deepened, erasing any semblance of familiar shapes. The laughter lingered in the air, taunting, reverberating against the walls, drowning out all rational thought. There was no way to escape. She was trapped. Feet shuffled, soft and sinister, echoing like a heartbeat in the void. She could feel eyes boring into her from every angle. With sheer desperation, she spun around, searching for a sliver of light, hoping for an exit, some kind of elusive hope. But nothing. Only the sludge of darkness and the sickening dread that had pooled in the pit of her stomach. Then, a whisper sliced through the air, sharp and clear. "They don't forget," it said, almost a chant, repeated by several voices, hauntingly synchronized. They don't forget, what don't they forget? Sarah shouted, her voice cracking, trembling with a mix of fear and anger. Where was it coming from? She felt their breath on her skin, cold and malevolent. The bartender's smirk reappeared, glistening as a beacon within the darkness. "Oh, sweet girl, you should have listened." His voice dropped low, sadistic pleasure dancing through it. "You just mentioned a name, and now, it's like ringing a dinner bell." A wave of shadows surged toward her, a writhing mass of nightmare come to life. She took a step back, her breath coming quicker, heart hammering in her chest. "No. I didn't mean." Her words collided against the oncoming tide, but the rest felt futile, strangled in her throat. Rule number 5, the bartender leaned closer, the amusement twisting his lips into something grotesque. "Never mention their names out loud. It invites them." A chill spread through Sarah, icy fingers creeping down her spine. She stumbled backward, colliding with something solid, flesh or the bars worn which she didn't care. She was desperate to get away from him. The shadows twisted, contorting around her, claiming her like a predator with its prey. The voice of the woman echoed in her mind with haunting clarity. "When they start calling your name, it's already too late." Suddenly, the mass of shadows began to separate, forming into denser shapes. Sarah squinted, trying to discern what loomed in the dark, her heart sinking. Figures emerged slowly, faces once familiar contorted by malice, their eyes reflecting hunger and something darker still. Sarah, a low murmur crawled from the mouth of a figure in the front, stretching her name out like a silk noose. The voice twisted with familiarity, it sent a spear of old memories through her heart. "Come play with us." The room spun wildly, laughter bubbling up and wrapping around her, squeezing tighter and tighter. They knew her name now. She staggered, her vision breaking apart, the walls pulsated, and in that moment, she understood, fear was the key, and they were the locks waiting to close. "Let us see if you can last," the bartender said, his grin spreading wider, pleased with the chaos he had sown. Frenzy surged. Sarah turned, fighting her way through the crowd, desperate to break free of their grasp. She scanned the darkness for a way out. What lay ahead could be worse than what she had already faced. "Think you can escape?" The man from the corner loomed at her left, shadows flickered behind him, stretching ominously. His features were clearer now, and the devilish glee in his eyes sent ice coursing through her veins. The voices were colder, louder, filling every corner. A chorus of the lost, echoing through her mind. She pushed hard against the crowd, her body moving instinctively toward the bar, but the shadows closed in, pulling her further into their depths. But still, a heart thrummed within her. Hope? Or sheer madness? Either way, she had to try. She had to know if she could reclaim her name, reclaim her life. "Sarah," they chanted more viciously, a ghastly symphony. Her own breath quickened, panic sparking through her, igniting a wild determination. Maybe there was a way to break their hold. Maybe there was a way out. With every ounce of clarity she could muster, Sarah yelled into the darkness, "What do you want from me?" The response was immediate, a silence that circled her like a noose. Then came the laughter again, ringing sharper, colder. "Will you play?" And in that temple of shadows, she realized with horror the game had already begun. What were they willing to sacrifice for freedom? What rules would be broken to escape the lost bar? The laughter faded, but the darkness thickened, wrapping around Sarah like an iron grip. The game they spoke of was alive, a pulse of terror vibrating through the very air she breathed. The shadows pulsed with a twisted heartbeat, and she felt the ground shift beneath her feet, a current pulling her toward the creeping figures. "Playtime is the best time," one figure murmured, fingers reaching out, claw-like. Its face twisted, a mockery of someone she once knew. "You'll love it here." No, she couldn't let them win. Heart racing, she broke into a sprint, dodging between the figures that loomed and clawed at her. The bar was alive, shifting lethargically, as if it had its own desires. The way out felt like an illusion, the entrance swallowed by the shadows. Suddenly, she burst into an open space. A faint glimmer of light flickered ahead. Her heart leapt at the sight, hope clawing its way through the despair. The walls were splattered with strange, dark marks, and grotesque laughter echoed from every corner. The light flickered dangerously, teasing her with false comfort. "Where do you think you're going?" a voice hissed from behind. A shadow lunged, but she ducked and bolted toward the glow. "Run, little Sarah, but you can't hide." As she reached the light, it flickered violently, the shadows licking at her heels. Heart thundering, she pressed through, the surrounding darkness pulling back momentarily. The light was warm, inviting. A figure stood there. They seemed unaffected by the shadows, standing tall against the encroaching chaos. "Help me," Sarah pleaded, the plea trembling in her throat. "Please." The figure smiled, and it felt real. A flicker of recognition danced at the edge of her memory. "You shouldn't have come here, Sarah. But you can help yourself." The smile widened, teeth sharp and gleaming. "You know the rules." "What rules?" she gasped, the shadows creeping closer, gnashing and hungry. "Look around, dear child. Life is a game of choices." The figure gestured at the cold emptiness surrounding them. "What will you sacrifice to escape? A name? A memory? Or something dearer?" Sarah's breath caught in her throat. The shadows twitched with anticipation, their voices an unholy symphony echoing in her mind. She was standing at a precipice, terrified of what lay ahead. How could she choose? "We change, Sarah, and you will, too." Echoes of lost souls surrounded her. "Just let go." No. She couldn't let them claim another piece of her. She stepped closer to the figure, heart pounding, desperation clawing. "I want. I'll fight." The figure laughed, a melodic sound soaked in malice. "Then you are destined to suffer." It raised a finger, and the shadows descended upon her, wrapping around her throat like a serpent, squeezing tight. In the oppressive grip, Sarah suddenly felt something shift inside her. A whisper bubbled up from deep within, a flicker of defiance ignited by clarity. "I want to play your twisted game." A guttural roar erupted from the shadows, and the darkness recoiled as if struck. In that moment of defiance, the bright light flared again, exposing sharp edges dripping with past regrets. "Sarah, you can't run from your history," the figure warned. "Playtime is just beginning." With a deep breath, she forced her body into motion, using the surge of clarity to break free from the serpent's constriction. She sprinted again, not toward the light, but deeper into the unsettling unknown, determined to uncover the truth behind this place. What had pulled her in so deeply, and how could she extract herself from the terror that bled greedily from the walls? "Find the heart of the bar, Sarah. Only then will you have a chance." The figure's voice echoed, a guttural promise mixing with the cacophony surrounding her. As shadows clawed at her ankles, Sarah screamed for clarity, for answers, willing herself not to succumb to the call of darkness. "What do you want from me?" she shouted again, her voice rising above the dread. The shadows shifted, coiling back slightly as they hissed, the laughter rising again, now malevolent. "More than you can imagine." What? Further horrors awaited her in the heart of the lost bar. Would she find out what they truly wanted, or was it all part of a game she was destined to lose? She plunged into the dark corridors, her breath ragged, pulse racing in her ears. The whispering shadows followed, a sinister drone of laughter echoing in her mind. They wrapped tighter, bringing with them memories she loathed. Flashes of her past flickered before her eyes, haunting reminders that tugged at her sanity. "Find the heart," she repeated to herself, a mantra, while the dread pulsed with every beat of her heart. She forced her legs to move faster, pushing past the creeping darkness that enveloped the world around her. Each step felt heavy, as if the very ground conspired to pull her back. "Remember the names, they'll help you," a ghostly voice beckoned, a familiar yet chilling melody that surged from the shadows. She resisted the urge to listen, knowing they fed off fear. But fear was a beast strong and hungry, gnashing its teeth at her resolve. A sudden chill crept down her spine. She stumbled into an alcove marked with jagged stone, revealing a flickering sign, the heart of the lost. It pulsated like a dying star, and she felt an inexplicable pull toward it. The shadows breathed heavily behind her, restless and feral. "Welcome, Sarah," a voice slithered from the darkness. It was deep, vibrant like honey laced with poison. Sarah's pulse quickened. "You're just in time for the final act." Out of the shadows, a figure stepped forward. It wore a smile that could crack the world sharp, too wide. Familiar. It was someone she had loved, someone who had walked away, leaving her to battle her demons alone. "I thought you'd never find me," they said, voice dripping with sweetness. "Stay away." She screamed, backing against the cold stone wall. Desperate to escape the pull of nostalgia, she fought hard to remember the bitterness of their abandonment, how they had left her in a fragile state, a puppet with no strings. "Come closer," the figure crooned, impossibly inviting. "You know you want to. Play with me, Sarah, just like old times." Beneath the figure's skin, shadows flickered, twisted souls clawing for freedom. Sarah pressed her palms against her ears, squeezing her eyes shut. "You're not real. You left me." The figure laughed, a sound sharp as glass. "We're all fractured here, my dear. We exist as fragments of who we used to be, trying to connect in a world that's devoured us." Suddenly, a crushing force slammed into her, freezing her in place. It wasn't only the figure that had advanced. The shadows surged, a dark wave that threatened to drown her in its depths. "Join us, Sarah. We are all lost here." The walls trembled, the gap between reality and nightmarish fantasy thinning. Sarah felt sweat trickle down her spine, overwhelming despair clawing at her sanity. "What do you want from me?" she rasped. "What do I have to give?" Only silence answered, as if the bar itself held its breath. But behind her, a flickering light beckoned, a pale glow emerging from the shadows. It seemed to thrum with the unspoken heart of the bar. It promised certainty, the truth of her entrapment. The shadows gasped, recoiling in unison. "Don't! You'll regret it!" They shrieked, their malice palpable, words tumbling over one another in frantic urgency. This was it. The moment for answers was slipping through her fingers. With resolve stiffening around her, she took a step toward the glow, the figure's laughter fading behind her. But the warmth drew her in, and a single thought ignited: how far will you go to reclaim what was lost? As she reached the brilliant light, the shadows surged forward, their claws a mere inches from her. Darkness enveloped her once more, but something bright flickered in the abyss. "What happens next, Sarah? Are you willing to find out?" The cold laugh echoed, and the light faded just as quickly as it had come. What lay hidden in the heart of the bar, and would Sarah be able to withstand the revelation it held? In the suffocating darkness, Sarah felt the weight of the shadows pressing in around her. She flinched as the icy tendrils grazed her skin, whispering her name like a taunt. The moment she thought she had grasped the light, its warmth flickered away, and she was plunged back into the chill of despair. "Find the heart." The words echoed, but now they felt hollow. Her heart thundered as though trying to break free from her chest. Panic clawed at her throat, every breath a painful reminder of the hopelessness that lurked just beyond her reach. She stumbled blindly, arms pinwheeling as she sought some form of guidance in the dark. "Where are you?" she screamed, her own voice a mere ripple against the suffocating silence that enveloped her. "Right here," the figure whispered, its voice dripping with amusement. It circled her, one step closer each time, until Sarah could feel the heat of its breath on her cheek. "I've always been here, Haven Ti." "No, you're not real. You can't be." The denial tasted bitter, yet it was the only weapon she had left. "You left me." The figure's laugh sounded like thunder cracking through the void. "Did I? Or did you leave me? Perhaps we both abandoned each other, lost in this pit of memories." The shadows around her stirred, eager for her surrender. She could feel their hunger pulsing like a heartbeat, wanting to drown her in despair. She clutched her temples, desperate to ward off their poison. "I'm not afraid of you," she shouted, but her voice quivered on the edge of uncertainty. "Ah, but fear is a delicious flavor. Have you tasted it, Sarah? Have you savored the sweet moment when it consumes you?" Suddenly, the ground beneath her feet shifted, a ripple of movement stirring the dust and debris. Sarah staggered, her feet slipping on the uneven floor. For an instant, she glimpsed the heart of the bar reflected in her mind, vivid memories like splintered glass. Each shard was a face, a name, a bittersweet reminder of those she had lost, and she gasped, realizing the enormity of the truth. "Remember their names?" The figure whispered, its path curling like smoke around her. "What if I told you that forgetting is the real horror?" "No, I won't let you." Defiance surged through her. She stepped towards the eerie flicker of light that now pulsed like a heartbeat in the darkness, pulling at her resolve. The figure swooped in closer. "You're running out of time. You can't face what's coming next." With a cry, she lunged toward the glow, but with each hurried step, the shadows lunged as well, claws stretching, shrieks pouring from their mouths. "You're ours, Sarah. We will feast on your memories." As their cries crescendoed, the light flickered violently, illuminating the twisted faces that lurked behind her, bitter reminders of choices made, paths taken. Each face wore a mask of twisted agony, and terror lodged in her throat. She trembled, uncertainty shredding at her focus. What if the heart did hold her pain? What if it tore apart everything she thought she knew? Would she be brave enough to endure the truth? In that unbearable moment, the light surged brighter, a desperate sanctuary promising answers while shadows clawed at her sanity. Then, with a heart-stopping thrum, the beacon seemed to explode, a vortex swirling around her. "Will you embrace who you are, Sarah?" The laughter rose again, layered in malice. "Or will you remain lost in our darkness forever?" As the shadows closed in, a decision hung palpably in the air. Surrender to the dark or confront the light. The bar trembled beneath her, teetering on the brink of revelation and ruin. With breath held tight, Sarah surged forward. What awaited her on the other side of that blinding light? Did the heart hold salvation or damnation? The blinding light enveloped her, a cocoon of energy that buzzed and hummed like 1,000 bees. Sarah squeezed her eyes shut against the searing brightness. Heat radiated from it, pulsing with a living intensity that seemed to suck the shadows into its center. "Step into the truth, Sarah." The voice coiled around her, smoother now, like silk soaked in honey. "You know you want to. Feel it. Embrace it." Against her instinct to recoil, she took a hesitant step forward. It felt like a leap into the abyss, but the promise of clarity overshadowed her dread. She opened her eyes, heart racing, blurring her peripheral vision into a kaleidoscope of color sparkling in the light. And then it shifted. No longer a singular beacon, the light fractured into countless shards, each reflecting a moment of her life. Faces flooded her mind, laughter, warmth, safety, moments of joy entwined with agonizing memories. The faces turned into a mosaic of anguish, forming shadowed figures lurking just outside her reach. "Do you remember them?" The figure's voice was now sinister, an echo of little boy dreams twisted into nightmares. "Stop!" she shouted, hands gripping her temples, trying to banish the visions. "I don't want this." The figures pressed closer, their mouths moving, but no sound came forth. The air thickened, suffocating her until her breaths turned shallow. The warmth of the light began to dim, shadows stretching out like gnarled fingers, ready to reclaim her. "Your past is a mirror," said the voice, taunting. "You can't escape it. You are defined by what you leave behind." "No!" Sarah screamed, retreating, but the darkness surged forward. She stumbled, falling to her knees as the weight of despair crushed her chest, memories collapsing against her, every choice she had made, every single regret. "Face your heart," the shadows whispered, now swirling around her, a tempest of guilt and love lost. "Or we will take it." With trembling hands, Sarah pulled herself back up. The shards of light loomed large before her, each fragment an opportunity to confront her demons. She could feel the shadows closing in, sealing her fate. Trust hardening within her, she forced herself closer, willing her voice to cut through the fear. What if I accept my pain? What if I claim it as a part of me? Then you would be free. The figure leaned in, lips curling in a grotesque smirk. But it comes at a cost. The light pulsed in response to her words, a heartbeat against the relentless pull of darkness. What do you mean? She gasped, fighting the hesitance gnawing at her resolve. Embrace the truth or hide from it forever. Will it be the heart of anguish or the heart of salvation? In that fatal moment, Sarah took a deep breath. She reached toward a shard of light, her fingertips grazing its surface. A surge of energy jolted through her, igniting everything in her core. The light throbbing against her skin was both painful and exhilarating. Suddenly, shadows lashed out, shrieking, clawing for her. Sarah's heart raced, ready to tear free from her chest. And then she felt it. A pulse not just of the light, but within herself, the essence of who she had been and who she could still become. The shadows recoiled, screaming in fury as the light blasted outward, illuminating the path before her. But amidst the chaos, a chilling laugh echoed, and fear wrapped around her once more. Too late, Sarah. You can't escape the darkness. It's already part of you. And just like that, as the light consumed everything, she realized she stood at the edge of her own existence. In one last desperate act, she shouted, "Not today." But as the light began to fade and shadows enveloped her once more, the figure whispered, "Remember, darkness and light are intertwined. You can never truly choose." What awaited her in the depths of shadow as it prepared to consume her again? Would truth become her ally, or was she forever entwined in the darkness? The darkness swallowed her whole, the remnants of light flickering like a dying star. The shrieks of shadows filled the air, tearing at her sanity. It was chaos, pure and unbearable. Sarah felt the breath of something cold and wet brushing against her neck, and instinctively, she backed away, heart pounding wildly. Suddenly, she found herself not in an endless void but in a narrow, dimly lit corridor lined with cracked mirrors. Her reflection fragmented into a dozen grotesque versions of herself, each more distorted than the last. She could see terror in those faces, an echo of her own fear. "Welcome, Sarah," the voice coiled around her again, softer now, almost seductive. "This is where your journey truly begins. What do you want from me?" She demanded, but her voice trembled in the stillness. "To understand your truth," came the reply, a slithering sound that crawled under her skin. "To accept who you are, all of you." With every step she took, the reflections whispered back secrets, enticing fragments of her life woven into taunts. Moments she had buried came rushing back, the laughter of friends, the warmth of love, and the chilling cold of betrayal. Each memory threatened to pull her under, drowning her in regret. The corridor widened, revealing a room that felt like a twisted carnival, disorienting and surreal. It was a bar decorated with faded, peeling photographs of laughter frozen in time, the scent of stale alcohol heavy in the air. But there was something unsettling, an unshakable feeling that she was being watched. "Seventh rule," the voice whispered, now echoing from all corners. "The cost of your freedom lies in your darkest desires." Next to her, a figure emerged from the shadows, a woman, beautiful yet hollow, with eyes that seemed to perceive the very depths of Sarah's soul. "You want to break free, don't you?" she asked, lips curling upwards. "Then make a choice." Sarah's heart plummeted. Choices felt like shackles, binding her to her past. "What kind of choice?" "The price of liberation," the woman responded, gesturing to a rotating wheel of glinting glass shards displayed in the center of the bar. "To spin and reveal a secret so deep, you'll either embrace or shatter. What happens if I shatter?" A cruel smile danced across the woman's face. "You will dissolve into nothingness. Memories won't be all you leave behind." Instinct screamed for Sarah to flee, but curiosity held her captive. What did she truly want? Make your choice, Sarah, the voice echoed, mocking her. Will you remain in the shadows of regret, or will you step into the light of truth regardless of its cost? The wheel's shards glimmered with promise and danger, each reflection a piece of her life waiting to be uncovered, a grotesque gamble between salvation and oblivion. She reached out, fingers brushing the cool glass as a wave of dread washed over her. What if I can't face it? What if I ruin myself? Amid the lingering silence, the woman leaned in, her breath cold against Sarah's ear. Then you will never know, and the darkness will consume you whole. Just as Sarah's heart raced towards a decision, a loud crash echoed from somewhere beyond the bar, shattering the tension, along with the illusion of safety. Something was wrong. The shadows outside howled with renewed fury, clawing at the edges of her sanity. What is happening? Sarah gasped, her resolve wavering. The woman's smile faltered, and fear washed over her face. Only the bold survive here. In that moment, the room twisted again, a distortion of light and shadow threatening to envelope her in despair. Sarah stood at the precipice, longing to be free yet torn by a haunting question. Was she brave enough to confront what lay before her? As the echoes of the bar faded, her choices loomed larger than ever. She needed to act. But before she could grasp a shard, a chilling voice rose from the shadows behind her. Remember, Sarah, darkness knows your heart. It will not let you leave. And with that, the weight of her decision pressed down like a vice, each tick of the clock clawing at her throat. Would she confront her truth, or would she feed the darkness? The room began to swirl, and a new nightmare unfurled just out of sight. The room shuddered. The air thickened with unseen tendrils pulling at her skin. Sarah's pulse quickened as the spinning sensation twisted the dim light into a whirlpool of shadows, dragging her deeper into the unknown. Faces in the cracked mirrors leered at her, mouths twisted into silent screams. This was no refuge, it was a trap. What do you want from me? The question trembled on her lips again, desperate, as she looked into the hollow eyes of the ominous woman. Only what you can give, the woman crooned, her smile bright but empty. Isn't it time you confronted your truths? Spin the wheel, and all will be revealed. With a shaky breath, Sarah felt the weight of the moment. This was her chance, or was it? Could her longing to break free lead her to annihilation? The crash from outside echoed in her ears, urging her deeper into the labyrinthine horrors of her own mind. Gritting her teeth, Sarah stepped closer to the wheel, the reflections of her past dancing chaotically in the glass shards. The whispers grew louder, each one laced with temptation. They wanted her to unleash what she had buried. What if I'm not strong enough? The question slipped out, a vulnerable confession hanging in thick air. Then enter the abyss, the woman replied, her eyes glimmering with malicious glee. You will never know peace again. Could she even trust this creature? Stomach churning, Sarah hesitated. No. This was her moment. Rejecting the shadows that tormented her, she reached out, her fingers trembling as they hovered over the spinning shards. Voices swelling in unison urged her, pleading, taunting, face it. Face your truth. Then, the infernal howl of the darkness outside grew louder, rattling the walls, and Sarah felt her skin crawl. What if I'm leaving a part of me here? She gasped, her heart racing. What if this isn't just about me? The woman's laughter echoed, raw and chilling, sending shivers racing down her spine. You fear the cost. Your memories are the price. Will you pay? Before she could unearth her answer, the shadows lurched forward, clawing at the edges of her resolve as if waiting for their moment to snatch her away. Time lurched around her, seconds stretched into an eternity. Spin, Sarah. The urgent chorus screamed in her brain. She pushed herself forward, fingers gripping onto one glinting shard of glass. The sharp edges pricked her skin, pain igniting clarity. I'll do it. She breathed, almost a whisper, the courage activating in her veins. The wheel began to spin, momentum gathering like a storm. The voices crescendoed, each reverberation slicing through her sanity and ushering in a blinding light. Sarah squeezed her eyes shut, clenching her jaw. Whatever came next, she had to face it. The darkness didn't own her. She wouldn't let it. The world around her erupted in chaos. The bar twisted, blurred, as the ground trembled beneath her. A deafening crack echoed, followed by a rise in temperature like a furnace of despair. When she opened her eyes, she was no longer in the bar. Now, she stood on the edge of a precipice, the sky a stormy mix of bruised purples and greens. Below, shadows writhed like snakes, hissing her name. With trembling hands, she looked down into the abyss. There, she could see flickering images of her past flashing by like distorted memories of friend's laughter, her father's last word, a face she vowed never to remember. Would she plunge in? Would she reclaim what was lost or lose herself entirely? Sarah, the chilling voice echoed up from below, oozing hunger and desire. Join us or you will drown. That was her moment, the point of no return. Sarah drew in a breath, heart hammering. Could she face what she never wanted to see? As the shadows opened wide, monstrous and waiting, she had to decide. All at once, a rush of frantic energy surged inside of her. Not today, she whispered, but was it too late? The world swirled again as she closed her eyes, uncertainty crashing down around her, yet in the distance, a flicker of light beckoned her forward and then, there was silence. What lay in that darkness called out to her, promising both salvation and torment. The choice loomed, and Sarah stood, bracing for the plunge for whatever awaited her on the other side. But would she emerge whole or completely shattered? The chaotic storm within Sarah roared louder than the tempest around her. Everything she had experienced, every fear that had clawed at her throat, came down to this moment. The darkness below pulsed as if alive, beckoning her with its merciless hunger. Shadows writhed, their whispers rising to a fever pitch. Join us. Let go. They promised relief, but she knew better now. She took a firm step back, fighting against their pull. Not today. She shouted, voice slicing through the shrouded chaos. It was a declaration, an act of defiance. She wouldn't give in. With determination igniting a fierce light within her, she turned towards that flicker of hope, a faint glow shimmering in the distance. With each breath, she focused all her energy on the light, feeling it ignite her core. It spoke to her, an echo of warmth and comfort, reminding her of who she was before the darkness tried to claim her. That flicker became brighter, illuminating the truths she had long buried, the laughter of her son, the joy of friendship, the spark of dreams. She closed her eyes, and it all flooded back in waves, rushing through her veins like electricity. Those memories, her memories, were a shield, her barrier against despair. I embrace my truth. She shouted, feeling the resonance of her own power surging with every word. The darkness shrieked, thrashing violently around her, but she stood firm, feet planted as shadows recoiled from the brilliance of her resolve. With renewed strength, she took a step toward the shimmering glow. In that moment, she remembered every single choice she made led her here, not just to the edge of an abyss but at the threshold of understanding. She wasn't just battling for herself, but for every lost soul caught in the same web of despair. I will not be forgotten. She cried, and the light exploded outward, swallowing the shadows whole. The ground beneath her trembled, the bar itself seeming to pulse in response, a beast awakening. And then, as if responding to her call, the darkness unraveled. The shadows, which moments ago had felt suffocating and inescapable, began to lift, disintegrating like mist under the morning sun. Faces she had lost, memories long silenced, fled from their tormentor, swirling into the light and leaving whispers trailing behind. With each second, clarity flooded her mind, illuminating the truth of her existence. She was not bound to the past but defined by what she chose to become. The deeper agony of loss, regret, and pain began to shift into something transformative, something terrifying yet freeing. As the last remnants of shadows shattered into oblivion, Sarah felt a warm breeze swirl around her, wrapping her in a cocoon of safety. Gone was the oppressive air of the lost bar, replaced by the sweet scent of freedom. With a final, defiant surge, she stepped fully into the light. The transition was electric, a heady mix of emotion. Memories danced like fireflies around her, illuminating every corner of her heart, and for the first time, she embraced them. Her weaknesses, her scars, they made her whole. Suddenly, she was back, standing in the familiar warmth of a sunbeam streaming through her tiny apartment window. Her son's laughter echoed from the next room, grounding her in reality. As she looked around, Sarah understood that she was not merely a survivor of a nightmare but a testament to resilience. The shadows of fear could not claim her, they had only sharpened her spirit. Closing her eyes, she inhaled deeply, allowing gratitude to flow through her. She was ready to face whatever came next. This was her farewell to the lost bar and those haunting memories, a profound promise that she would choose light over darkness, always. Now, listen closely, because this is your moment. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next gripping stories we have waiting for you. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and keep the stories alive. And flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this wild conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to experience this epic journey. Your support builds this incredible community, and only true fans understand the importance of these actions.